As you guys should already know, rogue decks are easily the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, which contradicts the idea of rogue, but you get what I'm saying. As an avid enjoyer of rogue Yu-Gi-Oh decks whose accomplishments have only came from rogue Yu-Gi-Oh decks, I am going to be talking about what I think are the best rogue strategies in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. Legit decks that can actually compete with the top dogs. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with y'all big dogs? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day is going nothing less than phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. The rogue tier list. I thought it would be best to take some of the Yu-Gi-Oh strategies that have topped over the past couple of weeks, as well as some Yu-Gi-Oh strategies that have inspiration from the 2025 Megatens. Maybe there's some key reprints or even some new cards to support Yu-Gi-Oh decks and comprise them all to a tier list. Of course, like normal, I can't get every single Yu-Gi-Oh deck, but you guys can help by posting down below in the comment section what are some strategies that I missed. The criteria for these rogue tiered Yu-Gi-Oh decks is how powerful can they stand up against the current meta? How powerful do they stand up against some of the most popular cards in the game? When we're talking about the best decks in the meta, of course, we're talking about the best decks in the meta. That would be currently K9, whether it's Vanquish Soul or it's Crystron. It would be Yummy in every variant of Yummy. And I would probably say that Malice has taken that third spot, but it's still fighting for Draco Tal. As far as some of the most played cards, we have to actually look at cards that aren't being played right now. Droll and Lockbird is regulated to a lot of players' side decks at best, and while Mochumi Flawless is still a problem for certain Yu-Gi-Oh strategies, it's not the end of the world. Being able to play around K9 cards or Yummy interactions is probably going to get you a benefit. So let's go ahead and start off this tier list with the Dragon Mommies. Oh, brother man, you guys were gooning for Dragon Maid Draco Tal. Unfortunately, it's not the strongest variant. Pure Dragon Maid has also been a lot worse. There's almost no reason to play a pure version over a Draco Tal version gaining its benefits. I would like to say that this strategy isn't the worst of the worst, it's pilot dependent, but it's not the best of the best. Where it struggles is that it has a lot of monsters that conflict for your normal summon, and it is a huge engine, not allowing you to be able to play complementary counter cards to your opponent's strategies. Overall, you pro gooners, this is a really solid deck with a great player being able to take it to some pretty decent heights. Next is Centurion. I actually think that Centurion is closer towards the pilot dependent, but I'm actually going to give it a little bit above pilot dependent for a couple of reasons. I think there's some underexplored things about Centurion. As you guys already know, as a Centurion player, you never have to commit into a Molcharmy. But one of the best things about this deck is that it has access to some really powerful synchro monsters. Bestial Dispatter, Cosmic Blazar Dragon. These cards are really strong. I think one of the biggest reasons why I want to give Centurion the nod is Chaos Angel and the ability to be able to synchro summon on your opponent's turn. These two factors can make this deck incredibly strong and very hard to deal with. It also does have a lot of room for you to be able to play a ton of counter cards. I love the deck. It even topped the regional as a super heavy samurai version. That's crazy. Chimera Big Dogs is actually in a way better spot. Droll is gone! And while I do think that there might be better Fiendsmith as a Mina variants, there's not a lot of better Fiendsmith variants at this current second, especially with the ban list looming around. I want you guys to think, Chimera is one of the few strategies that can integrate just Fiend monsters. It means that if the ban list does come around and hit Fiendsmith significantly, this is going to be one of the very few decks that can play it. I'm going to put this in another pilot-dependent situation. I think that a really good Chimera player can take this deck to some really far heights. It has that same thing of being able to play around the Molcharmies, Droll isn't existent, and Board Breaker cards are this deck's best friend. The only downside to Chimera is bricking, because you do gotta play some bricks. I think Kashtira at this state of the game is probably better off as an engine. We've seen Draco Tal players use Kashtira Finra with ton of success. It punishes cards like K9 while also being able to give you the advantage over strategies like Yummy. Cash Tuner Unicorn actually does take it a step even further, allowing you to be able to banish the 1-ofs in the decks. There's the opponent's Fiendsmith cards. A lot of players are only playing one K9 Ripper, and those yummy Synchro monsters, they only play one of those too. I think that alongside of Kashtira Birth actually makes Kashtira a Yu-Gi-Oh strategy that can challenge. Whether you're running this deck as a pure low to the ground Yu-Gi-Oh strategy with a ton of counteractive cards, or if you're using Kashtira as an engine alongside of stuff like Fiendsmith or even Primite. Hell, I even made a Kashtira Psychic Fiendsmith deck that is crazy. Brother man, I've been cooking in the kitchen with this deck, and no, I'm not coping. You're coping. It is a really powerful engine in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. My biggest problem with Labyrinth right now is that your going second interactive cards aren't as good as your opponent's going second K9 interactive cards, or Dracotel Finema interactive cards. But other than that, I think that this is a really, really, really good deck. The Black Goat Labs has entered itself into this competitive Yu-Gi-Oh card game, and it's proven itself to be a really, really strong card. This is a Yu-Gi-Oh deck that can search the Black Goat Labs and gain the other effect. I'm not giving up on the lab mommies, and you guys shouldn't either. Red Eyes, my boys. My boys, Red Eyes, my boys. That's Red Eyes, my boys. I figured if I kept saying Red Eyes, my boys, we'd forget that we're talking about Red Eyes. Maybe we could say Metal Morph Red Eyes, summon Red Eyes, Metal Morph Dragon, something like that. Yeah, brother, I'm right there with you. This is Copium. Just a quick thing, if Blue Eyes is on here, I don't think I have it on here because I wanted to talk about it on my budget tier list. I would put it in Can Challenge. I think Blue Eyes is a really solid deck in a really good spot right now. But right now we're talking about Red Eyes. Red Eyes reminds me of my little sister growing up. I mean, yeah, she was a girl, but she never really did girl things. It's almost like you didn't necessarily know your purpose. But unlike my sister, who grew up to be a stud, and it makes sense looking back at it, Red Eyes hasn't really grown up to be anything just yet. But hey, we got Red Eyes Slash Dragon in the Megatons. That mean Red Eyes support, right? Magical Musketeer Fiendsmith is just a copium way of saying that you don't like the Unchained cards, because the Unchained version of the deck is just infinitely better. The only thing that separates Magical Musketeer over the Unchained variant is maybe Molchummy Flawless, but the boards that this deck makes is just ridiculous. Primite. Okay, Primite is an engine. I think Primite is an engine inside of other decks, not Blue Eyes. Definitely pilot dependent, which is also build dependent. I think that Primite would work in a Kashtira deck or maybe a Primite Fiendsmith deck. But outside of that, Primite is like most Yu-Gi-Oh players in a club full of girls. No motion. They worse than the brothers that be sitting in the back on their phone, not even talking to girls. They be trying and just failing. But I know that's none of the Yu-Gi-Oh players that are subscribed to this channel, right? Because they're subscribed to this channel, which means they're top dogs. And another thing that makes you a top dog is protecting yourself when you're talking to girls. That's right, you get to do, but you gotta need protection. And that protection comes in Raven Wing version 4. Big dogs, I want you to imagine it's your big day and you are getting lucky with one of the baddest women of all time. Of course, you don't want any slip-ups and have an 18-year consequence like your buddy done did twice, so you're gonna need protection. I can tell you, Trojan does not work. Magnum does not work. Those Life X or whatever does not work. But having your Yu-Gi-Oh strategy protected with the Raven Wing sleeves, the best sleeves in the entire universe, is your best bet. So go ahead and go to TheCaliEffect.com and pick up your sleeves today. Not only are you helping the channel out, you're getting something in return. Now back to the tier list. Solomon Great getting Solomon Great Fire makes me believe that it's getting more support. I mean, that was really random to have just Solomon Great Fire in it. And that's actually needed because this is the first strategy that needs help. Solomon Great's not bad. It's still 1 to 2 card combos, and the combos are still pretty powerful. It also still has Promethean Princess, which is a card that can come up. I think the biggest problem with Solomon Great is that its non-engine complementary cards are a little bit outdated. Hand traps can be effective, but doesn't necessarily work in the grind. And this deck can be stymied just a little bit and is pressed for extra deck space. I think 1 or 2 Solomon Great main deck cards would genuinely help the deck. Monsters that are level 3 that can be starters and extenders. This would give the deck about 15 starters, which means that it can push through interruptions and potentially K9. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Is that what Solomon Great needs? I personally think so. I was talking to the resident virgin Iman, and Iman said that Yugioh is in a really good spot. Now I want to give you guys a lot of preface. He has like 4 million hours on Yugioh. But he's also Iman. The last time he topped, he was closing the bottle cap of his Mountain Dew. I think Yugioh has some pretty good things for it. It does have insulation with Phantom of Yugioh. It has game-winning potential regardless of your opponent's board because of Nightmare Pain. But I think the huge problem with Yugioh is Phantom of Yugioh at 1. Regardless though, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say pilot dependent. Yugioh has never really cared about the big board that the opponent makes, because it always has that ability to force your opponent to attack into your monsters, which are indestructible by the way, and inflict damage. It has an unconventional way to win games, and I think that that's going to be its best bet. Now, how successful that is, I think it's going to be solely dependent on Pilot. But let's not also forget the Unchained and Fiendsmith combo cards that it could use. Paleozoic got support in the Mega 10s, and by support, I mean it got reprints. And technically the new rank 6 monster. Yeah. The last time Paleozoics received support, I think it was a Link 2 monster in Cambroster. Besides that, this is an 8-year-old Yu-Gi-Oh strategy. Yeah, that's not gonna work without multiple grasses, greeners, and stuff like that. I think Paleozoic does have potential to be a really good strategy, but it's going to need support, and a lot of it. Exodia! I really like how this deck appeared into the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. I really hate that it disappeared. And the biggest reason is because of Millennium Monk. A card that allows you to be able to summon the unstoppable Exodia to your side of the field, but the drawback is that you can't have anything that's not a Millennium Monster. I think what this deck needs is more Millennium Monsters. Legitimately, that's all the deck really needs, is more Millennium Monsters that do things. Now, I'm not going to pretend and be an art mage connoisseur here, but I have noticed that this deck has been starting to top a little bit more and more. It's a really, really good deck. I think it can challenge. I think this is one of those decks that you can be really confident for in the future, and it's simply because it is a lore-based Yu-Gi-Oh deck. We know it's going to get at least 2 more waves of support, and if any of them are significant alongside of the right ban list, it can be crazy strong. Punk feels like it got support 2 or 3 years ago, because it definitely needs help. I don't even know exactly where to say Punk went wrong, because the Punk Exceed monster Jam Fever is perfect. The level 8 Sea Serpent Punk monster is also amazing. So it's really hard to find out exactly what this deck needs, but we know for a fact currently it can't compete with the top dogs. And now that I think about it, I'm starting to realize a common theme. It doesn't have any turn 0 interaction whatsoever. And I don't think it can be mixed with any of the other turn 0 cards unless K9 Punk anyone. I'm gonna try to put TJ on it. Let's see if it works. Rescue Ace got a top, but I'm not genuinely convinced. Rescue Ace is a really strong deck. If you resolve Rescue Ace Turbulence, I still think you have a really good shot. But the problem here is successfully resolving Rescue Ace Turbulence. I don't think that that's a thing that can consistently happen. Again, shout out to the person that topped. You're a dog, man. I just don't think that that's a thing that can consistently happen with a wider player base. Rescue Ace, though, for sure needs an extender. I think if it has like maybe 2 or 3 more different extender cards, the deck is a crazy strong deck. Tier Limit, big dogs. Okay, the deck is good, but man, seriously, Tier Limit needs cards off the ban list. That's literally it. Regenesis, my boys. Every single time we talk about Regenesis, it does something unexpected for some. Regenesis just recently topped another national event. I also believe it topped another regional too. I'm never letting this go because I don't think he is either. But there's that one guy that said that Regenesis was just a phase and it's not really a good deck. Brother man, go somewhere. Regenesis Kashtira is actually solid. Now, I don't think that the new Regenesis support is good. It got 1 card and the card's mid, but Regenesis does have the potential to be a really solid engine that can be played in other decks. Right now, I think the best version would probably be Regenesis Kashtira. The Regenesis Bestial is not that far behind. All right, maybe it's not in the Ken challenge. Maybe it's in the solid choice, but you guys get what I'm saying. Cyber Dragon has actually been topping, and I gotta find the goo, boys. Cyber Dragon is a Ken challenge Yu-Gi-Oh deck. It fits very well with K9. design and actually has a way to be able to get rid of Link monsters on the field. I also like that the opponent has to respect Clockwork Knight. It prevents them from Link summoning into the Yummy Link, Yummy Snatchy, I believe. It stops the opponent from doing a wide array of things, which is really interesting, and gets you into cards like Therion King Regulus to help insulate your combo. This deck's really good at being able to go second and win. It's like Tenpai Dragon, except cooler. Mimigools! Yeah, big dog, stop while you're ahead. Okay, so how do I say this without pissing off the Mimighoul community? Your deck sucks! I didn't mean to say that. No, but seriously, Mimighoul isn't necessarily like terrible. I wouldn't say that it's one of these decks in particular. Maybe it's even closer to Needs Help. But I can't think of what would it need to actually make it good. The power of Mimighoul seems to come from your opponent not knowing what Mimighoul cards do, and also reliant on your opponent not smart enough to play around Mimighouls once they find out you're playing Mimighouls. When Yu-Gi-Oh strategies get presented like that, they have a very limited ceiling. Because once the universal way to get rid of the deck becomes relevant, then you kind of get cooked. In a lot of people's cases, it's tribute summoning, and K9 monsters just so happen to be level 5. But against decks like Yummy, maybe. Draco Tell is, I think they confuse them all, but they can also tribute them too. I'm not sure, but I'm not feeling Mimighoul. Let me know if I'm wrong. This probably could be here or here. I really want to hear what you guys have to say. White Forest has been doing its thing. It's one of the best decks in the game, man. As far as a rogue comparison, it does have a world championship top. It also has quite a few regional tops. Droll has been falling off, and when that happens, this deck can be really crazy. Branded. I think you can't go wrong with Branded. There is a world where Branded Fusion comes to 2 and the deck gets stronger. We also know that Branded now has an anime. More support is on the way, brother. I think Branded is actually closer to a pilot dependent than Solid Choice, but it does have quite a few free things that you can get away with that just steals wins for you. Lunalight is also easily one of the best decks in the game. Droll is not here, and this deck summons a 3,500 attack Gooner Cat that wins the game. I really do like how this deck is really good at going second. If you guys take a look at the World Championship build, it didn't really play any hand traps. If it got the opportunity to go second, it would, and it'd win. And if it went first, then you're dealing with the big cat. I love its game plan. I would say Goblin Biker Fiendsmith is, I would say lower end Solid Choice, higher end pilot dependent. The deck is good. It can get you places, and Big Gobanga allows you to be able to eat things. Also, detaching materials from your opponent's XC monsters like their K9s or Valen Sky Blaster, or even if you ever go against Raizio, feels pretty good. Sky Striker. I hate to say it, man, but the top 3 rogue decks in Yu-Gi-Oh would be White Forest, Lunalight, Sky Striker. I would say that Kashtira and Archmage are right behind them though, at least for right now. These decks do a really good job at being able to play against some of the best decks in the meta, whether it's abusing the fact that Yummy monsters need trigger effects, or Draco Tail monsters are reliant on their graveyard, or even how K9 monsters are reliant on activating in the graveyard and playing with the extra deck. All of these strategies do something unique to help you play against that. It doesn't feel like a slog going against these decks, even though they are rogue decks, and which means they're inferior to the competition. The Solid Choicers are actually just good overall decks. While they may have their complications against at least one of the top decks in the game, they're still really solid decks just overall, and if you're not playing against the meta, they feel like really refreshing decks to play. Pilot dependent, these Yu-Gi-Oh strategies are going to take that dog to be able to run. I do believe in them still. I have nothing but hopes for them, but it feels like you have to put a lot more effort for these decks to be successful. Needs Help is exactly what it is, and Copium is where Ashen is going. Ashen did get a new monster. I don't remember the name. It's like that Queen card from the Megatens. It summons itself and it does things. It's Ashen support. The only problem with Ashen is that it starts with ass, because it's exactly what it is. But this deck is so ridiculously flawed, it's not funny. Big dogs, that is all that I have for the Rogue tier list. It was really, really fun to do this with you guys again. Of course, if you want to see more amazing content, you already know what to do. Go ahead and check out these videos and buy your Raven Wing version 4s. Remember, when your girl asks you for protection, you whip these bad babies out. I hope you guys are having an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next video.